It's a Monday. Trent Dilfer, Peter King, Nick Swisher, Doug Gottlieb just joins me. Fox Sports Radio after us. He's got a million things to say. Let's start with the breaking news today. Hugh Jackson fired. I mean, they faced a tough schedule. Rookie quarterback, they're 2-5-1. If they had a kicker, they probably have 4 wins. Was this just because Hugh is bad at a microphone after and before games?
He was bad on Hard Knocks.
Yes.
And he also, this is being fired in the midst of your most successful season when you're 2-5-1 doesn't speak well to Hugh Jackson. But this is one of those, he or Todd Haley had to go. And apparently Todd Haley, because he's only been with the organization for 6 months, gets to stay. So, I mean, like, look, this is the most Cleveland thing ever. I mean, as he wasn't hired by Dorsey, and yet Dorsey, whether he was forced to or chose to keep him on for a year, and they couldn't even stomach getting to the year. So this one strikes me as odd in terms of timing, but this is a he goes or I go, and apparently Jimmy Haslam decided that Hugh Jackson goes. I don't think anyone would argue that they're extremely well coached, that they're disciplined, that they've done the little things, or that he was impressive as a head coach in Hard Knocks. But I also wonder who they're going to turn it over to this year. And then all of a sudden now you run the risk of Baker Mayfield going through 3 coaches in just 2 seasons. Is he able to get the most out of his talent, the most out of the talent around him, considering all the dysfunction within Cleveland?
And by the way, you played basketball at Oklahoma State. You know the Oklahoma program. Anything happens in Oklahoma, I lean on Doug always. Lincoln Riley, I heard 2 weeks ago from an executive in the NFL I trust, they said, that's the new McVay in this league. It's not in the NFL. Matt Nagy may be it. McVay is it. It's the kid at Oklahoma. Do you think Lincoln Riley would leave?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, would you leave a place where you can win 85, 90% of your games, maybe even 95% of your games, to join the Cleveland Browns? But obviously he has a relationship with Baker, and the league has shown, not just with McVay, but other places. You look at what Matt Nagy is doing with the Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
You look at, frankly, what the Kansas City Chiefs are doing, using college-style, inventive offenses, winning with your first 15 plays with young quarterbacks. That's the trend in the league. It's an offensive league now. So that's the guy you reach out to. I think the only other guy that's considered at that level would be Cliff Kingsbury at Texas Tech, who may be available. But the problem is that he and Baker Mayfield have a past, and it's not really a good one.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, Lincoln Riley has to be the number one guy. It's either Lincoln Riley or Bob Wiley, who's the offensive line coach with the huge belly. We want him to be the coach.
By the way, I was talking to Jimmy Johnson, the legendary football coach, yesterday at Fox, as I come in on Sundays, and we were just talking about random stuff, not the Browns, and he said, listen, man, everybody wants to run people out. He goes, I tell all these young coaches and all these young GMs, don't fire people before you got somebody better than the guy you're firing. Because he goes, by the way, even when I was with the Cowboys early, sometimes you're playing guys you don't want to play, but there's nobody better out there. Everybody wants to fire everybody, like the Dodgers are like, fire Dave Roberts. Well, Joe Girardi got canned in Miami and New York. Is he better? I don't know. But the point is, we're in a firing culture. We're in an avalanche culture. Social media, blow everybody up. It's like, God, give me a break. Okay, I want to shift to this. You know Aaron a little, Aaron Rodgers. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Ty Montgomery went real selfish on that. Aaron's reaction on the sideline, he turned to a teammate, and you could tell he was calling out Ty Montgomery.
Correct.
I have this feeling, this theory, that Aaron has been carrying this franchise, and to this day is. But now that he's got a big contract, and he's turning 35 in about 2 months, when he starts losing, they're not going to be able to give him the pieces he needs, and I think he deep down knows that. So he feels like the clock is kind of shortening on him a little bit. That's why that's so frustrating yesterday. Is that fair to say?
I think, you remember Marissa Tomei in
My Cousin Vinny?
My Cousin Vinny,
Oh,
when she says my biological clock is ticking? That's Aaron Rodgers. He's like, my football clock is ticking over here.
Yeah.
They lost a game because Mason Crosby, Mr. Reliable, misses 5 kicks.
Yes.
And now they lose an opportunity because they're up 10-0 and Mike McCarthy chooses a run play on their own goal line to get a safety. Look, but I do not put it on Mike McCarthy for what happened with Ty Montgomery. That's Ty Montgomery going rogue. Ty Montgomery misses a block in the previous series, and it causes a sack, and it gets them off track, so they don't score points. They don't play add-on. Then in the most selfish display of hero ball I've seen in football in a long time, he catches a kickoff, should have taken a knee. Everybody thinks you take a knee.
Yeah.
And instead he runs out, and then you fumble? The entire football America was ticked because we wanted to see Aaron Rodgers on the field at the Coliseum against arguably the best defensive line in football and see what he could do in the 2-minute drill. I don't blame Aaron Rodgers for being ticked that Ty Montgomery
I don't either. I don't blame Aaron. I don't. But I do think it's a bad look for McCarthy when his marginal player goes rogue and McVay's superstar is all in.
Okay, before we canonize Todd Gurley, we do realize that mathematically, statistically, it was the wrong play to take a knee up 2 points. If you go into the end zone and you score 8, it's a touchdown. Now, you can kick the extra point, which is the only thing in question. They could block it and run it back. But if you kick the extra point and you make it, with Greg Zuerlein, you're up 9. The game is over. So, look, the Todd Gurley thing, we want it to be Brian Westbrook with the Philadelphia Eagles up a point where it was the smart play. Actually, statistically, he could have gone into the end zone and it would have been fine. But it does speak to what McVay's doing, right? Sean, I did an NFL game a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
I went down to Miami.
Yeah. And
they could not have been more effuse in their lack of praise over Ndamukong Suh. They're like, man, is it better without Ndamukong Suh here? And it was Jay Cutler also being gone. But the idea that Ndamukong Suh, he's a private subcontractor. He's a mercenary. He doesn't work out with the guys. He barely practices with the guys. He shows up on Sunday and does his job. But there's not a lot of warmth where Ndamukong Suh is.
I've heard that from every source I have in the league has said the exact same thing.
Okay, but people are going crazy about Sean McVay's ability to call plays. His play calling, even listen to his post-game comments, was crummy yesterday. Their offense was not good.
Yeah.
The reason they won that game was the defense kept playing, and the defense got after Aaron, and the defense got stops. That's the genius to McVay, is he can motivate these guys that others have not been able to motivate. And to your point, he can get Todd Gurley to buy into the forget fantasy points, forget hitting the over, forget being the win. I mean, everybody in Vegas is ticked at him, but it is the play that signifies the Rams, in addition to being statistically the best team, they are actually a team, which you don't have, not just in the NFL always, but you don't have in LA sports.
I would argue, let me do just one basketball topic with you because you're well connected here. Since Dan Gilbert bought this team over a decade ago, we've only had 2 Cavs. We've had the Cavs with LeBron, good to great, and then the Cavs without LeBron, the worst team in the league that will get the #1 pick. Those are the only 2 Cavs since Dan Gilbert bought it. I could argue Ty Lue did not get fired this weekend. He got fired when David Griffin, LeBron's guy, got fired as GM, and LeBron decided that day, I'm out on Gilbert again. I can't trust this guy. And at that point, LeBron decided emotionally, I'm out of here. That's what got Ty Lue fired. That this is symptomatic of something. But Dan Gilbert twice has had LeBron and both times has complained to people close to him. He's just too high maintenance for me. It's the Dan Gilbert issue.
Well, look, LeBron James can be too high maintenance, and Dan Gilbert can be a complete train wreck as an owner. Both of these things can, in fact, be true. What I think, look, part of the reason they were so bad without LeBron was they were trying to be bad. Right? If you go back and you ask David Griffin, for example, he was on my radio show, and I said, what about the sense that LeBron James took over a team that couldn't win? He's like, look, in fairness to Kyrie, we didn't want to win. We were trying to not win. We were trying to get the #1 pick in the draft, which I believe is simply the case with Cleveland. That's a terrible team, a terrible roster, and they're trying to be bad, and they did Ty Lue a favor. Ty Lue he's the David Fizdale of 2018, 2019. Last year, Fizdale's the coach of the Memphis Grizzlies. Everybody likes him, and then all of a sudden, Mike Conley goes down with injury, and the team says, we're out. We're tanking. We're trying to be bad. And they fired David Fizdale because he gets into it with Marc Gasol because they were trying to be bad. And David Fizdale goes on TV and now lands a better job. Now, I don't know about the contract buyout and whether or not there's offset, but that's what's going to happen with Ty Lue. He gets to 3 NBA finals. Is he Brad Stevens? No. Is he the greatest coach? No. But players like him.
Yeah, they
play
do.
hard for him.
Players like him.
And here's the thing. The hardest thing to do, in order to win an NBA locker room, you have to have won before. And in order to have won before, you have to win a locker room, right? It's a catch-22.
Right.
Ty Lue is one of like 2 or 3 guys that can walk into an NBA locker room and say, I've been there. I've done it. Yes, I had LeBron, but I've won a championship. He'll be a valuable commodity, and I think Cleveland did him a favor by paying him to not take 55, 60 losses this season.
All right, that's a good take. I like that take. There we go. So in the end,
you wouldn't fire Dave Roberts?
Listen.
I mean, how are you taking Rich Hill out? He's pitching the game of his life. They played 18 freaking innings till 12:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Rich Hill's out there giving it everything he's got. So he's like, you know what? I'm going to take the ball from you.
Because Andrew Friedman makes $7 million as the GM.
Hal 9000 is managing that team. They go to a computer. This is like, look.
But why are you blaming the manager if Friedman's running the thing anyway?
Because if the manager can't say, you know what, in this particular instance, I got it. Like the reason Dave Roberts was hired was partially because he said, I'll give into analytics.
That's right.
But it's also partially because he was the guy who stole the base, for the Boston Red Sox when they're down 3 games done. He's been there. He's done that. So, look, at some point you take the bullet and say, my gut, my baseball instincts tell me that even though every stat will tell you, and even Rich Hill handed him the ball. Rich Hill wasn't fighting to stay in that game.
Yeah.
But you go out there and you go, hey, man, give me a couple more outs. Just give me a couple more outs. Let me get to the 7th. I mean, between that and the misuse of bias and using Ryan Madsen
Here's what I don't like.
And play your best players. What the hell is this? Max Muncy doesn't play in game 2. What are we doing?
No, I agree with that. I believe in analytics over analytics, but I will say this. Aaron Boone got the Yankee job because he would succumb to the front office.
I understand how
why do we kill the managers?
Because at some point it's your job and your team, and you got to make the call, right? How you get the job and how you operate within the job, 2 completely separate and distinct things. And I agree with you. That's why he got this job.
Yeah.
But that was maybe not a winnable series, but there were winnable games to which we should still be playing baseball. If you're a Dodger fan, you're hot, you're upset, and now we don't know what happens with Clayton Kershaw.
It's just like me. I got this job because I listened to bosses and analytics. And if my ratings are no good, it's the guys upstairs that should be fired. It's not my fault. I'm just listening to orders. Joy and I they tell us what to talk about, and we just do.